And welcome back to Real Talk Sports with Rico. Today we are talking about the Western Conference and just giving you my loose thoughts about the Western Conference as the NBA season gets ready to start off. And let's start with the Golden State Warriors. I think that the Golden State Warriors are very much going to be dependent on their younger players, whether it's Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody. Those are a couple players that come to mind. But really, they're trying to maximize this window that they have left with Steph Curry and Draymond Green. And I thought it was interesting to hear Draymond Green on his podcast say that he did not want the franchise to make a move that was going to set this franchise back. And so, with that being said, if the Golden State Warriors are not going to be making any move this coming season or for some coming seasons, how are they going to maximize this window with Steph Curry? I think that that's going to be interesting. Next up, the Oklahoma City Thunder. And so, look, I think the Thunder went out and had a very good offseason. I like the trade that they made, trading off Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso, a very good defensive player coming off a great year. He's an NBA champion, former NBA champion with the Lakers. Then also, too, I like what they got with Isaiah Hartenstein coming over from the New York Knicks, even though he is out with a broken hand right now for about 5 weeks. When this team comes together, I think that they are going to be a very good team. I think that they learned from the experience that they had last year. And I don't know if you're going to be able to shrink the floor like the Dallas Mavericks were able to do to advance in that series against OKC. This is definitely one of those teams that I think can be in the Western Conference Finals. Wouldn't shock me if they make it back to the NBA Finals. Next up, the Utah Jazz. And so the Utah Jazz are a team that very much are questionable because with Danny Ainge over there, I'm wondering, is he going to make some trades? I mean, he's got Walker Kessler over there that could be moved. He just signed Markkanen into a multi-year contract, but they might move Colin Sexton over there. John Collins is another player that could be moved. Jordan Clarkson. Like, this team very much can be moved. And I'm just wondering what they're going to do. They were very competitive last year. Didn't get a chance to really go too far because I think that they are just so young. But now, can some of these younger players like Keontae George, players like that really take off this year? And can Utah get a direction? Because I'm not sure that they've necessarily had one since they've moved on from Donovan Mitchell, and that whole era that they had there in Utah. And so next up, the LA Clippers. And so the LA Clippers might be one of the most disappointing teams in the NBA this year. And I think it is going to be fascinating because they are going to be all over the news because they just went ahead and they just had this new arena, which is going to be opening up this year. And you really had a bad offseason where you let Paul George go for absolutely nothing. And if you've been paying attention with what's going on with this team, because they gave up so many picks to get Paul George over here, who's no longer with the Clippers, if the Clippers happen to finish in the lottery, there's a good chance that OKC would own that pick right. And so they may, in fact, give OKC a lottery pick just off the fact that they could be that bad this year. And, a lot of people were thinking, okay, well, they have Kawhi Leonard. They still have James Harden. That's not even the case because now news has just come out that Kawhi Leonard is going to have an indefinite timeline going into this season because of the swelling in his knee. And this is terrible because the Clippers really banked on him. This is the first year of his 3-year extension. They've already let Paul George go. I don't think James Harden's going to take you to the next level. You let Russell Westbrook go. This team is in very much trouble. And from a financial standpoint, it is going to be challenging for them to make trades because they can only send out and take in so much. So they have to be really creative in how they go out there and they try to make this team good. Next up, the Memphis Grizzlies. I think it's all about health for them because Right now, Jaren Jackson Jr., he had a hamstring going into training camp. John Morant has had various injuries. He's had off the court stuff as well. And I really think it comes down to those two players. I do like the fact that they have Zach Edey out there. I think that they have a lot of pieces that suggest that this team could make a run. I would expect for them, as a healthy team, to be in the top five in the Western Conference. The Houston Rockets might be one of the most exciting up and coming teams. I think with Jalen Green, I think that he's taking another step this year. Got a chance to look at some of his preseason workouts, and I must say they look pretty phenomenal. But they're going to have to make some decisions about this roster, because there are several things that I do like about it, that they do have on this roster with the youth movement. But, with contracts and the way that that's going to work out, I think that the Houston Rockets are going to have to make some decisions, because they just went ahead and picked up Dylan Brooks last year. They do have veterans like Jeff Green. But when you have Şengün over here, that's a player that they're going to have to make a decision on, which I like him a lot. Jabari Smith Jr., I think that he's going to come into his own this year. I love, Thompson as well. I liked him last year, him and his brother coming out of the draft. I think that they're going to be terrific. But I want to see a little bit more from like Cam Whitmore this year. And so, they have some younger players that are kind of playing the same positions. And I think that, they're going to have to make a decision, and maybe they might have to move some of these pieces, maybe to get some draft capital in order to go ahead and, now get this thing going in the right direction. And so next up, as we continue on, the Portland Trailblazers. And so, the Portland Trailblazers, right now they're injured. I'm curious to see what they're going to do in the front court, because they have Donovan Cleveland that they just got out of UConn. And I think he's going to be a pretty good player, but you already have DeAndre Ayton over here. You have Robert Williams II too. And so they need to clear out some of these players that they have in the front court. And it's not a good sign that they have Shaedon Sharpe, who is injured. And then you want to see a better year from Scoot Henderson. And so this is going to be a tough year for the Portland Trailblazers. Make no mistake about it, but it is all about this young core growing this year. Next up, Phoenix Suns. And so depending on how you feel about the Phoenix Suns, some people feel like they could be in the Western Conference Finals. Some people feel like this is a team that maybe barely makes the play-in. And I just think with Phoenix, it's going to come down to injuries for me, because, I get it, that they have Devin Booker. I get it with Kevin Durant, and I get it with what they have when they made that trade for Bradley Beal. But they just were not right last year. And so, I don't know if Coach Bud can come over here and help this team. I mean, from a coaching standpoint, that was a disaster. And I just don't like the fact that they haven't done too much other stuff to this roster. And I don't like their rotations. I don't think that they're deep enough. And I think it's going to be a challenge for them. And then you're relying on Kevin Durant and these guys to play some major minutes. And so, like I said before, it is going to be a challenging season for the Suns. And maybe they make a run, maybe they don't. Who knows? But next up, the Timberwolves. And so I like what the Timberwolves did and going out and getting Julius Randle. I like the fact that they also get Devin Gento over as well. I think that he is going to be a very good player. And so, with that being said, they've cleared up some space. They're going to give Rudy his space to really operate in the paint. But now I think this is the year that Anthony Edwards is going to have to take off. You have Terrence Shannon Jr., who they just drafted in the draft. They have Rob Dillingham as well. And so this backcourt is going to be good. It's going to be really, really good. And it's going to be scary at times. So I'm curious to see now that they're shifting away from this front court and going more towards the backcourt scoring. I think that was one of the things that kind of wore down Anthony Edwards at the end of the season, was just that he was doing so much. Now he's going to have some other guards to go with him that are going to be able to perhaps help him out. This is the year, hopefully, that you're looking for Naz Reid to take off too, because now he's going to get an expanded role. And so the Timberwolves are primed and ready. Can they make that next step? They could be easily in the Western Conference Finals and maybe the NBA Finals as well. San Antonio Spurs, they're on the same line as the Portland Trailblazers. I think now that you have Chris Paul over here, how much better can you get with Wemby, right? That is going to be the question with them. And so I do like the fact that they have Stephon Castle out of UConn. I think that he is going to be a phenomenal player. You didn't get a chance to see so much of him in the summer league. I believe he got injured, but this is all about the young players. It really is. And so I'm curious to see what they do. And it's even more interesting because Chris Paul, in pretty much every stop he's been in, they've won, other than Golden State. I mean, that was a tough situation for him. But can this team move on? As we move on to the Los Angeles Lakers, the Lakers, it's all about what are they going to do with these role players. Like I said, I think that Dalton Connect is an absolute steal. He's going to you're going to look back and say that this young man was an absolute steal in this draft class. I think he's going to be an impact player from day one. I'm saying that right now. And I think for the Lakers, what are they going to do to maximize this window with Anthony Davis and LeBron James? So this is the same situation as Golden State. Now, the Lakers want to make moves. They want to make it happen. And, from what I understand, I was hearing that they had been into some serious talks with Chicago. They were possibly thinking about sending some draft capital over, to get Zach LaVine. And I don't know how true that is. I know that Zach LaVine has been playing pretty good for the Chicago Bulls right now. It makes a lot of sense because, Rich Paul, he's the agent of LeBron, of Anthony Davis, and Zach LaVine. And also, too, by the way, Zach LaVine went to UCLA. So I don't know. The Lakers could be primed to make a move to capitalize on this window left with LeBron and Anthony Davis. Next up, the Pelicans. The Pelicans, it's all about the health. It's all about the health of Zion Williams. And what are they going to do with this looming contract situation with Brandon Ingram? Because it's clear that they don't believe in Brandon Ingram enough to give him the max contract. And Brandon Ingram is not feeling the love there either. And he's been listed into several trade conversations as well. And so, with this expiring contract, the Pelicans need a big man to go alongside of Zion Williams. They've already kind of gone out there and shored up the backcourt with what they have. And so now the question is, do they move on from Brandon Ingram? I could see them doing that. They have players like Jordan Hawkins, who I think should be getting some more time here with the Pelicans. And, again, they have CJ back there as well to go along with Herb Jones. You got Jose Alvarado, a young player that I definitely like too. And I like the fact that they went out there and they got DeJounte Murray over from Atlanta. So, like I said, the backcourt is fine. Like the backcourt and the forward position, I think, are very fine for the Pelicans, but they need a center. And so this might be the opportunity to move on from Brandon Ingram. Perhaps you get something back that makes sense for your franchise for the long term. So, maybe look for the Pelicans to make a move sooner than later. The Dallas Mavericks, nobody expected that they were going to get to the NBA Finals. And I think they're on everybody's radar now. And so we know what the Dallas Mavericks can do. Can they follow this up? Because right now, they're not going to sneak up on people like they did last year with Daniel Gafford and then also to Derek Lively, along with Luka, Kyrie. Like that team is not going to sneak up on anybody. And I think for them to take that next step defensively, that's where it's going to be at for Dallas. They're going to have to get better defensively because they can score with the best of them, but can they get enough stops? And I think that was the difference to them getting to the NBA Finals. They really locked up at a high rate in the West. And, what they were able to do to get past Minnesota, like that is tough. Like, so that attention to detail, they're going to need to be locked in when it is winning time. The Denver Nuggets, look, they still have that championship window. It's still open there. They did get Russell Westbrook over here. They didn't make a lot of additions to this team, but you still got the Joker. You still got Jamal Murray. You still got the core, essentially. I don't like the fact that they did give up KCP, who did go to Orlando, but the Denver Nuggets, make no mistake about it, it wouldn't shock me if they somehow made it to the NBA Finals. Next up, the Sacramento Kings. I think the Sacramento Kings are going to be one of the more exciting teams in all the NBA. I love the fact that you have two of the best clutch players in the NBA playing together with De'Aaron Fox and then also too DeMar DeRozan. Those players are going to win the Sacramento Kings a lot of games down the stretch. I promise you this. And looking at them in the preseason, what I love about this is that DeMar DeRozan traditionally is a player that operates in the half court. I love the fact that he's being able to adjust to Mike Brown, this system that he runs, because remember, Mike Brown came from the Golden State Warriors, so they run with that same type of pace. And DeMar DeRozan has looked fabulous in that. The pick and roll with Sabonis looks like it's going to be absolutely lethal. This team is deep. This team is primed to make a run. And I like what they have with DeMar DeRozan. He's super motivated to go out there and win a championship. The Chicago Bulls are very thankful that he went back and got a sign and trade for them in order for them to get something back. But, the Sacramento Kings, they won in a big way because they have their championship possibilities now open up with DeMar DeRozan. So I expect for this team to be very good. And so let me know in the comments what you're thinking as we ramble on about the Western Conference. It is going to be a very interesting NBA season. And I will say this. For once, I think I'm more excited about the Eastern Conference than I am the Western Conference, because the Western Conference usually has the better team. But the Eastern Conference with the Pacers, the Knicks, man, it's going to be very interesting. So anyhow, you can catch me on Spotify. You can catch me on YouTube. This is Real Talk Sports with Rico. We'll be talking more sports. All right, peace.